All right, so this is the second part of the Saving Earth game. We have a little turret here. The game started right. We made an enemy, but it doesn't. It's not really an enemy because it doesn't attack us or anything like that. We're going to work on the enemy today. Um, Probably the scoring, getting the scoring down. But that's what we have so far. If you want to open your old one, go to File, open your old one, and then you can go to Save as a Copy, and you can keep a different copy of it if you want. But the whole idea here is just to kind of a review. We have this point towards mouse pointer for the turret. It really doesn't do anything except it's a visual thing. The bullet is where we're actually firing. And what it does is it goes to the player. Every time we press the space bar, it creates a clone of itself. This is the cloning part. So this is the main logic for the bullet itself, because we can create several clones at a time by just pressing the space bar. If you hold it down, it does the same thing. If you want to change the speed or the amount of bullets fired on the screen, you can change that, or the speed of the bullet here, right? Move. Basically, all we have here for the logic is if it's touching the edge, then it just deletes itself. For the enemy here, we're going to actually name this an enemy. This also will be like a master object that we're going to clone. So we're going to do a couple things. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this. We don't need this right now. We're going to go ahead and do kind of the same thing that we did here with the bullet. We're going to have a forever loop. And we're going to forever create a clone of myself. Okay. Now you want to have some sort of time in here as well. So you're going to create a clone. You're going to have some sort of timer in here as well. For right now, we're just do like a second. So now we're going to have to do the logic for the actual when I start as a clone, which is down here, when I start as a clone. What we're going to do is just make it go to a random position for right now so you can kind of see them spawn on the screen. So if I hit the green, you'll start seeing the enemies appear on the screen. Now there, I took the logic away for them to be destroyed, but you kind of see that there's an enemy that pops up every single time on the screen. But what we wanted to do is actually to appear somewhere along this edge here. So a random point around the edge. There's different ways you can do that. The best one I found is actually to make it appear here, appear randomly on the screen, point towards the object here, and then move backwards. Okay. So look at the object and then move backwards. Look at the object, move backwards. There's probably other ways to do it. So look at the object, move backwards. That's kind of what we're going to do. So we're going to do go to random position, and then we're going to do just like a move back a large amount. Minus 200. Oh, we need to look at the object too. Look at, point towards player. This will kind of make sense, hopefully. So now you'll see them actually appear. Let me make this a little faster. You'll see them appear around the edge of the screen. Some of them are out perfectly all around the edge, but that's okay. Okay. So that's pretty good for what we want to do there. And that works because when it hits here random, it's going to go back negative and it will hug the screen. It'll kind of go off a little bit like this, but that's all right. So yeah, there we go. We probably now want to do like in the beginning, since this is like kind of like we did the bullet. If you remember, we hid it and then we showed it when we actually made the clone. We're going to do that. Let's just go ahead and hide it. And then we'll go ahead and show it right at the beginning. Okay, so now the master object's hidden. Now I see them all spawn around the screens here, the screen edge around. And then what we'll do is now make the logic where it actually is going to move towards the player. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to make it a forever loop, right? Because that's how we do all our logic, basically. Forever loop. We're going to just do move some sort of amount. Let's just go ahead and move something pretty slow like 1. Okay. So now you'll see if I do it, they'll start moving towards me because they've already pointed at me. Okay. Now you'll see them pass me, but that's okay. And some of them don't actually hit me exactly, which is okay because we want some sort of random variance there. Okay. So that's clones. What we want to do now is inside this forever loop, we're moving. What we also want to do is have some sort of, if I'm touching bullet, destroy myself. So we need an if statement for that. We probably also want to have an if statement for if I'm touching the player, then in the game or something like that. So we're going to do, let's see, sensing, if touching bullet. Then to destroy ourselves, we just do delete this clone because it's a clone. That's a beautiful thing about the clone. You don't have to like do anything else. And then we're going to say if touching player, also you could delete the clone, I guess, but we'll do stop all as well. Stop all. Okay. So now I have my thing. I should be able to fire my bullets. Bullets destroy them. You'll notice as you get more and more enemies on the screen, it does get a little. I love how they email me and pop up in middle class. There we go. Got some bullets going. And now I'll make something actually hit me. So that one missed. Oh, it hit my turret there. So there you go. It ends the game. It stops it. I can't control it anymore. So what we're going to do is probably do like a score variable. The way I did my game is, and this is how you'd kind of do it, is we have a variable here. We'll make it score. It's my variable. We'll just delete. So at the very beginning, we're going to set our score to 0, I guess. And then we're going to change our score every time we hit, basically a bullet hits it, right? We're going to change it by 10. Beautiful. Now what I had is so we'll go ahead and do that. As I hit these, you'll see my score goes up by 10. But to make it kind of, instead of you just kind of spam the button, I wanted to have it where you had like a skill window, right? So you'd actually subtract points for every bullet you fired. So to do that, I just went to bullet, and then basically every time I press the space, I just change the score by -1. Okay. So now as I spam, you'll see it every time I shoot a bullet, it goes down by 1. So instead of doing this, you can be a little more precise about what you're shooting. Now we're not going to make it go this many enemies, but let's see. Okay. The next thing I was going to add is I want it to basically ramp up in hardness and difficulty. So I made a couple variables. I did an enemy speed. And then I made another variable called enemy spawn time. You don't have to do the underscore. That's just me because it's just how I do variables. So enemy spawn time. We'll set these. Enemy spawn timer is going to be 1. And the idea here is every time an enemy spawns, it gets a little faster. So we actually have to subtract from that. And then we're going to set the enemy speed to 1. And every time an enemy is destroyed, we'll say, or we can do it every time it moves. We speed up the speed of the enemy so they get faster and faster. We don't have to show these, so I'm just going to uncheck these. The score, I actually just double click and just drag down here so we can have a little score down here at the middle. So we're going to move enemy speed instead of just 1. We're going to enemy spawn time, wait that amount. Then now we have to, so it's just doing variables now. We actually have to change those variables. So every time I spawn an enemy, I want to change enemy spawn time by something pretty small. You can, so I did 0.001. You can, that's what I use, but you can make it faster or slower, however you want to do it. And then I want to, every time I spawn the enemy, let's go ahead and every time I shoot the enemy, Yeah, let's do it every time I spawn the enemy. Change the speed by 0.1, so it gets faster every single time. Ooh, that might be too fast, but we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. There we go. So at first they start off pretty slow, and as they spawn, they get faster, and they should spawn quicker. Okay, so at first it's pretty easy. Let's get a little faster. So the idea is you do this until you died, basically, and your high score. Basically, keep high score. That's kind of the whole game. So as of right now, this is a complete game. It has ramping difficulty, has scoring, has an end to the game. It doesn't have, like, if we were to turn this in, you'd want to have like a start screen and an end screen and a way to restart the game. We'll talk about that a little later, but that's kind of the idea, right? So I could spam my shots, but I'm losing points that way. So anyway, that's kind of the idea here. I don't. Was there anything else I wanted to add? Oh, we can do size. We can do pick a random size. That's what I did on mine. I did set size, and then I also did switch costume. So every time I spawn it, it's going to look a little different. So if I look at the costumes for the ball, we actually have 5 of them. So we can actually access these by the names or by the numbers. So I can do a random number from 1 to 5. To get to random, I go to operators, 1 to 5. And then I can set the size, like smaller the size will be harder to hit. So we'll do like, I don't know, 50 to 100%. So now you'll see there's a purple one, a little smaller, pink one. So now we have things that are a little harder to hit, and it's just a little more interesting because they're different colors. I mean, you could get to like where you'd have different hit points and stuff like that for each one. We're not going to do that, but you can get it to be kind of cool. You don't want to add sound, right? You want to have, like, every time you shoot a bullet, make a sound. Maybe every time they get destroyed, you make a sound. Have some sound in the background, all that kind of cool stuff. We have basically a complete game now. Some cool, interesting. It's not just the same enemy. Again, you don't have to pick balls. You could hand draw asteroids if you want to do an asteroid. Like, asteroids are coming towards Earth, destroying Earth. Cool. So just balls, or different planets, or alien spaceships. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Okay. So that's it. Tomorrow I'm going to add. If you remember on the original game, we had the moon circling. We had the Earth. We had a couple other things. I'll show you how to do that tomorrow. Just kind of finishing up, doing finishing touches. I might even show you how to do a start screen. I'm not really sure, but or an end screen where you can restart basically. Here's y'all screen. I'm going to